So the meeting of the Advancement Committee, also known as the Good News Committee, is now in session. And on behalf of our members, Paul Manning, who's Vice Chair, Tom De Pasquale, Bert Ellis, Jim Murray, John Now, and Robert Hardy, I wanted to thank all of those who are joining us here today. We have some exciting things to talk about, so we should jump right in. We have our guests who are with us. I want to welcome them with us, and President Ryan will formally introduce them a little later on in this session. But to get started, I'd like to turn the floor over to President Ryan, who has a very special announcement. Jim?
Okay. So I'm really delighted today to have the chance to talk a bit about the generosity and impact of the Clark Foundation and the Clark Scholars Program at UVA. Just by way of background, since 2016, the A. James and Alice B. Clark Foundation has committed nearly $1 billion in assets across 600 organizations and institutions, focusing on a few strategic areas, which include educating future generations of engineering leaders, improving the lives of veterans and their families, and providing members of the DC community the best opportunity to thrive. The Clark Scholars Program is the Clark Foundation's signature academic program, which combines engineering, business, leadership, and community service. As part of a commitment to building the pipeline for future engineers, the Clark Foundation has partnered with some of the nation's leading engineering institutions, financially supporting students who exhibit strong academic and leadership potential. As some of you may recall, back in 2017, the Clark Foundation made a $15 million commitment to the university to endow the A. James Clark Scholars Program in UVA engineering. The commitment was made shortly after the inception of the university's Bicentennial Scholars Program in 2016, and so was matched dollar for dollar by the university, creating a $30 million impact and co-investment for the support of underrepresented students in the field of engineering with demonstrated financial need. The Clark Scholars Program provides educational and financial opportunities to exceptional, and I mean truly exceptional, students from populations traditionally underserved in STEM fields. Clark Scholars leave the engineering school to become leaders in the engineering and business community. The initial cohort of 16 scholars began in the summer of 2018, and over the next 7 years, as the endowment grows, the program will expand to 60 to 75 scholars. This means that the Clark Foundation has made an enormous difference in the lives of hundreds of students and in the field of engineering more broadly. For all these reasons, it's my honor to welcome School of Engineering Dean Jennifer West and Joe Del Guercio, President and CEO of the Clark Foundation and Clark Enterprises. Joe and Jennifer will tell us a little bit more about the Clark Scholars Program and its impact, and I want to thank you both for being here. But before we begin, I'd also like to show a video that features some of the voices of our Clark Scholars.
I didn't grow up around engineers, but I always had a passion for exploring how things work. I took apart everything in my house.
Being an engineer was never my first idea of what I wanted to do. I knew though that I always wanted to work in the medical field. I mean, in 5th grade I dressed up as a pediatrician for Halloween.
In high school I was really interested in computer science, but then I went to a summer internship at Columbia University for mechanical engineering, and that's what drew me to robotics.
I've always been helping my dad when I was younger, whether it be like fixing systems or like fixing like little things.
I figured that pursuing a career in engineering is basically pursuing my passion.
I've always been very passionate about working with the disability community. Adaptive equipment is not cheap. It is very expensive, and it's something a lot of people can't afford even though they desperately need it. So if I'm going to change the world in any way, it's going to be that.
My passion is probably environmental protection. I just see a lot of harm in what our society is doing, and I want to figure out a good solution.
For the longest time I thought I would be a civil engineer because that was all I was exposed to, but coming to UVA, I was able to be exposed to a variety of engineering disciplines.
What interested me about UVA was the academic culture here. and how everyone here is geared towards being a better version of themselves.
As a student from out of state, I was really nervous and I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So far, my experience at UVA has been really fantastic.
Coming from like a small town, you have a very narrow scope of what the world is. Coming to UVA has really given me the opportunity to learn more.
I wanted a school that promoted service, promoted that community building aspect. And so when I found out about the Clark Scholars Program, got more information on it, and saw that service was a key pillar for them, that was a big deal for me because it meant that they were aligned with my beliefs and my ideals, and I would be able to build on something that I'd already been working on here and build it with people who are like-minded.
I'm extraordinarily proud to be a first-gen student. It hasn't been an easy path to get to where I am currently, but the Clark Scholar Program has offered a wide variety of support networks.
Whether that's financial or just the administration, being there, knowing that I can go in with any problem and I have somebody who's going to lend me an ear, that's something that not everybody has in college.
I think they've given me a bigger voice than I would have had.
The Clark Scholars Program allowed me to come to UVA with a great mindset, a great hope.
Having that safety net and feeling of community support has definitely helped gain confidence.
The Clark Scholar Program really helps us be successful students by really emphasizing leadership, community, and a global experience.
The Clark Scholars Program allowed me to travel to Spain and study abroad for a semester. The person I was going into Spain and the person I was leaving Spain were two completely different people.
We should always strive to become a version of a society that we're most proud of. And that's what I like about Clark Scholars. They give us and me the opportunity to be the change that I want to see in the world.
I think the most important lesson that I've learned is that you can do what you want with your life. If you have a passion for it, you can pursue that and you will ultimately do great things in it.
They pushed me to see how far I could go and how much I could do, and I really appreciate that because I definitely could do more than I thought I could.
I'm so grateful for those opportunities that I wouldn't have had or that I wouldn't have reached out for.
Knowing that somebody else has my back, that somebody supported me all the way through college and wanted to see me succeed, and then I could move forward in life knowing that I wasn't alone in that experience and I'm not going to be alone in the rest of my experiences. I just want them to know how grateful I am and that this is such an important thing to me and I'm not taking it for granted.
Jennifer and Joe, welcome.
Well, thank you all for having me here today. I really appreciate it. It's, I think this is all recorded, so I'm glad I'm going to take your speech because you summarized the program in an incredible way, President Ryan, so thank you very much. And then it's always more important to hear from the students than it is from us, and a video like that says a lot about the program and the culture and the power of the program that we've been so lucky to be part of for 8 or 9 years. I'll spend just a little bit of time of how we got to the Clark Scholars Program, because I think it is a slightly interesting story. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Clark, A. James Clark, was what he would say as an average student, was hoping to get a scholarship to an Ivy League school that he really wanted to go to. That did not happen. He did get a scholarship to the University of Maryland, which he's always said completely changed his life as a first-generation student. He hitchhiked to school, he borrowed books from the library, and just kind of muscled his way through, and was lucky enough to get a job with a construction firm on campus at Maryland who was building a building there. He worked his way up through the ranks and became very close to the founder, Mr. Jim Rome, and Mr. Rome decided that he would pass the company on to Mr. Clark, and at that point he was doing $250,000 of revenue. Fast forward to the 2000s, Clark was doing $5 to $6 billion of revenue a year. It's the largest private general contractor in the country. Mr. Clark built that company to what it was. And along the way, he obviously built wealth in real estate and private equity and other areas, but always felt an incredibly strong belief to give back to the communities that have supported him, and was just a firm believer that scholarships and education was really that way to support other students who were in his situation. And so he had done a number of scholarships, one-offs, throughout his life at different universities. And then when he became ill and passed away in 2015, his goal was really two things. He wanted to transfer the construction company to the management team that owned it. He was a believer, similar to the way he benefited, that someone who runs a company should own it. And so we structured a transaction where we passed Clark Construction on to the management team that still owns it today. It's still Clark Construction. It's still private. It's still the largest contractor in the country, private contractor, which is really special, and that's what he wanted. But the second was he also believed that his philanthropy should be thought of as an investment and not a gift, and that today's money should solve today's problem. So his goal was to take his entire wealth, which at that point was in the vicinity of $1.5 billion, and move that into his foundation and spend that foundation down in 10 years. I was on the business side of things, but had spent a lot of time with him. I'm also first generation. And so they asked if I would move over and run the foundation starting in 2016 to then spend that foundation down in 10 years. And again, his belief was there's plenty of issues in this world and no need to just limit your giving to the 5%. And he was never really certain who was going to run his foundation 100 years from now and didn't want to have to worry about that. And so that was his belief around structuring the foundation for a 10-year life. We always knew that the number one thing we wanted to do at the Clark Foundation was scholarships, and scholarships in engineering, specifically for first generation and underrepresented students, which is what he was. And so we had learned a number of things through the scholarships he had given in the past, and that there were really three important parts of a scholarship program for him. And it really revolves around, he never believed that someone should just be an engineer. They should have every opportunity to be more than an engineer. And so his belief was that all engineering students who were part of his scholarship program should have leadership training. So get access to various leaders on campus, leadership programs, that they should all take business classes. He would have said accounting and finance. I would agree with him. We're not sure everyone takes accounting and finance, but that's okay. Entrepreneurship is very popular, but he was a believer that you should not only be able to be an engineer, but you should run a business and start a business if you want to and have that opportunity, and you should have those skills. And the third was that you should always give back to the communities that help you. And so community service is a very big part of what we have in the Clark Scholars Program, and it's something we try to support along the way as well. And then what we knew was that there were a number of things that were important for a scholarship program, and one was a cohort, and that students who are coming from these backgrounds really benefited from being part of a group, and being a part of a group who would come to campus early, get to know the campus, take some classes, and really gain some confidence before the general population started. And it just always had a group of people that they could rely on, and I think you could see from the video that that was an incredibly important piece of what we do. The second for us was dedicated advising. So every Clark Scholars Program has a dedicated advisor that looks over the, at most schools, 40, at UVA 80 students, and really helps guide them through all the various issues or questions or problems that may come up in their lives that they don't have the support for, that a lot of the students probably at UVA and other of the universities do have. And that's really, really important to know that someone is there and can help them guide through those issues, because many times it's not academics for why these students leave a university or a program or the engineering program. It's other issues. And so if we can help with that, we think that's wildly important. And when I look back, I think the program directors are the key part of the Clark Scholars Program. But the final piece, and then I'll stop, is really around making sure it's not just the academics, but you have to make sure that these students get the same access that other students would get. So we support the Summer Bridge program, we support summer internships, a research experience, another summer study abroad program so they can see other countries. And so we just want to make sure that they get a very well-rounded education that's not just an engineering degree, because that's exactly what Mr. Clark would have wanted. So today we have close to 500 Clark Scholars. At our 11 schools, we'll graduate over 100 every year. That number will stay the same or grow in perpetuity as the endowments grow. And so many of them are moving on to amazing careers. But it's where I see the power of the Clark Scholars Program are videos like this and the events we put together where they all come together, because the power they get from each other and the support they get from each other, I think, makes the biggest difference in the world. And we certainly know that all those pieces together would make Mr. Clark incredibly proud. And I can't thank the team at UVA enough, because again, it is the program directors, the deans, the presidents who believe in this program and support this program and spend time with these students that really makes a world of difference. And so we're lucky to be able to do it. I'm lucky to work for an amazing organization and man like that, but we're incredibly lucky to have the support of organizations like UVA who think about the program very seriously and we'll obviously watch it well when we close our doors next year. So, thank you.
I'm Jennifer West. I'm the Dean of Engineering, and I'm happy to share a little bit the specifics about the Clark Scholars Program here at UVA. So, huge thanks to the Clark Foundation and the Bicentennial Scholarships. This has really enabled a very special program at UVA that we're very proud of. We've just admitted our 7th cohort of Clark Scholars, who will be starting in just a few weeks. As you've heard, there are a certain set of pillars that every Clark Scholars program around the country has, and each campus gets to interpret those and develop programs around those in different ways. So the pillars are leadership development, business acumen, global experience, and service to society. So looking at our program, our program really targets students with very high financial need. So in the admissions process, the admissions office provides us with a list of students who have the highest kind of demonstrated levels of financial need, who have been admitted to UVA Engineering. We then have kind of phone interviews with them, determine if the program fits with kind of their interests and directions they want to go in life, if the students are willing to really commit to the program, and then work to kind of admit our class. So we have 20 students per cohort, and they come in the summer before their first year. So our students who were just admitted, they will be arriving in a couple of weeks. They will be here for 6 weeks during the summer for a residential cohort experience. They will take 2 summer classes. They will take a calculus class based on where they've placed, so either calculus 1, 2, or 3, and they will take foundations of engineering. That will get them ahead so that as the fall starts, they'll have more flexibility in their schedule. They'll know that they're really capable of dealing with the courses. They'll really be ready for that fall semester. During the summer, there's a lot of work to really bond with them as a cohort, really build the community, have them get to know the staff who are involved in Clark Scholars. So we have a faculty director and 3 staff members who really help support the students, who meet with them regularly, help the students address any issues they may have kind of as they go through this experience. These tend to be very high-risk student population. They're from very low-income backgrounds. More than 80% of them are first-gen students. And so as they run into little hiccups along the way, the staff members are really there to help guide them, make sure that they understand, the hidden curriculum of college, that any issues they may have around family obligations, any financial problems that come up, they're there to really help support and guide our students through those issues. So really developing those relationships over that first summer are important for success then into the next year. During that summer, we also spend a lot of time looking at exploration of engineering career paths, help students get a sense of where they're going to help them be motivated as they move through the program in the years ahead. So then this program extends through all 4 years. That first summer, I think, is a really important piece of the program, but they continue to have the support of the program through the entire 4 years that they're here. They will be in a leadership seminar course every single semester that they're here, really working on building their leadership skills. We bring in a lot of leaders from across campus and a lot of our alumni to speak with students during the seminar course. We also have events like a Dining with the Deans dinner, where deans from across UVA come and eat with our Clark Scholars every spring. On the business acumen pillar, our students need to take at least 2 business courses, and we strongly encourage them to pursue the business minor, and a lot of them do. For the global experience, our students do a cohort-based Maymester trip. So our students who just finished their first year are all together on a trip to Guatemala right now. And then we strongly encourage them to do further study abroad as well. And many of our students will do UVA in Valencia. You heard about the trip to Spain from one of the students in the video. So we have many of our students go do that program because it works very well with the engineering curriculum, and many study abroad programs are more difficult to blend with the engineering curriculum. For service, our students do service hours every single semester. They work mostly with Madison House and the Equity Center, but then in their 4th year, the cohort works together to do a 4th year capstone service project. And so they get to determine what they want to do. They will have done service with a number of different community organizations through their time at UVA, and they can really figure out what's resonated with them as a group and come up with a plan to do a large project. I think that's been a really special part of the program as well. So looking at our students, again, these are very kind of at-risk student populations, and yet they have been remarkably successful. We have had 100% placement within 3 months of graduation in both very top graduate programs like Penn, Columbia, and Cornell, and also in top corporate settings like Booz Allen Hamilton, Amazon, Eli Lilly, IBM, Capital One, and of course Clark Construction. So we're very proud of our students, seeing the video and thinking about some of the kids who have just graduated. These kids have great futures in front of them, and we really thank the Clark Foundation for helping make that possible for these kids. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
I have a question. Out of the 17 or so universities that have Clark Scholarship programs, how were the other 16 chosen besides the University of Maryland? And specifically, how was UVA chosen? First of all, thank you for coming, and it's a wonderful program.
Certainly, yeah. So there are 11, so sorry if I misspoke on the number. So 11 including UVA. Obviously Maryland is the obvious one. But all of them, for one way or another, were close to Mr. Clark or Clark Construction. And so when you look at the leadership of Clark Construction during most of the years that Mr. Clark was chairman and CEO, a number of those graduated from here. And I'm sure you probably knows the names better than I do, but Susan Ross and other people that Mr. Clark cared for immensely. And a number of, I still think we try to recruit heavily from UVA. And so there are different reasons for different schools, but UVA was a very easy and quick one for us to do.
Other questions? If not, let me say thank you, Jennifer and Joe. It was a wonderful presentation. And what a wonderful program, and I'm sure Mr. Clark would be very pleased at what you've both been able to accomplish here and in those 10 other universities as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mark?
Thank you both again. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe and Jennifer. Before I begin my remarks, which I'll try to keep brief because I know we're tight on time, Mr. President, I think you had something you wanted to share?
I do have something I'd like to share. So continuing the Good News Committee, I am delighted to acknowledge Robert Hardy and his wife Molly for their significant commitment to the new Football Operations Center, which, if you approve tomorrow, the naming will be named the Molly and Robert Hardy Football Operations Center in recognition of their incredibly generous support We felt it was important to share this news now, given that we are headed over to the grand opening of the Football Operations Center. As I'm sure many of you know, Molly and Robert have been extraordinarily generous with their time and their resources for more than 3 decades. In addition to their generous contributions to UVA athletics, which provide annual scholarship assistance and academic support for student athletes and the support of several capital projects, their philanthropy has benefited initiatives across grounds, including at the college, Darden, the Miller Center, the Center for Politics, UVA Health, and my favorite, Keep the Fires Burning campaign, which funded the Lawn Room Chimneys project. The Football Operations Center is just the latest in a legacy of projects supported by the Hardys, which have resulted in iconic pieces of the UVA athletics landscape, such as Disharoon Park and the John Paul Jones Arena. As chair and vice chair of the Building and Grounds Committee, Robert worked really closely with Carla Williams shortly after she was hired in October 2017, and her team, as well as with JJ, Colette, Don, and Alice, to develop the athletic master's plan. And over the last 7 years, Robert and Molly have been instrumental in bringing that ambitious plan to life. In May of 2019, Molly organized a Who's with Carla event in Charlottesville that provided a venue for women to meet Carla, hear her story, and learn about her approach to leadership, as well as to garner significant support and interest in UVA athletics. The event was a huge success and inspired similar events in other cities. I know I speak on behalf of Carla and the entire board when I say we are incredibly grateful that the Hardys have been true teammates to the university and to UVA athletics. It's amazing to see how much we've been able to accomplish over the last 7 years, including the incredible and unbelievable transformation of the athletics complex. And we could not have done it without Robert and Molly Hardy. So Robert, thanks to you, and thanks to Molly for your gifts and your continued support. And I'd ask that you all join me in a round of applause.
Thank you. You want me to say something? I'm going to make a few brief comments later, so I'll keep this extraordinarily brief. We're just honored to be able to support this transformational project. Molly and I believe greatly in this university. It's an extraordinary place. We believe that great universities need great athletic programs, and so we're going to do everything we can in this changing landscape to support our athletics programs and our athletics in particular, to ensure that we continue to compete at the highest level. We saw our swimmers earlier today and how impressive they are. And these young men who agree to wear the orange and blue in football deserve the best training, nutrition, physical therapy facilities possible, and I think this building will do that. We also believe in Carla Williams greatly. I think she's the best athletic director in the country. We believe greatly in the person that she reports to, Jim Ryan. We think he's the best president in the country, and especially as it pertains to to athletics. We're fortunate to have him right now in this changing landscape. And Jim understands that the athletics is the front porch of the university, and it's how a lot of people get exposed to the university that never would have before. So we believe in this university, we believe in Carla Williams, we believe in Jim Ryan, and I believe in Tony Elliott, and he will build the model program here, but he needed the facilities to do so, and now he does. He has those. So we're just thrilled to do that, and really appreciate all of your recognizing our contribution, and we're thrilled about it. So thank you.
Mark?
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Director, Mr. President, for the opportunity to be here today. I will try to go quickly here, but we do have some more good news to share, which I want to make sure everyone's aware of this. So as an update of where we stand so far this fiscal year, not that I'm counting, but we have a month to go in the fiscal year, but we are already over $570 million for this fiscal year in total commitments since July 1 of last year. That is a 14% year-over-year increase. So if we thought we were slowing down at all once we hit the 5 billion number, we are not. Things continue to go very well. In addition to just year-over-year increase, that's an 11%. That $570 million number is 11% increase over our 5-year average for where we typically stand at this point of the year. Philanthropic cash flow, again, as a reminder, philanthropic cash flow are the actual gifts we receive, not just commitments. So that could be annual gifts, that could be realized bequests, that could be pledge payments. We are standing right now at $340 million in the door since July 1, and that's up 7% year over year. As you may remember, a couple years ago, we made some pretty significant personnel changes in our gift planning operation and felt that we needed to do better for the university. And that has been now, a couple years later, one of the really key drivers for our growth across grounds. As an example, gifts of future support make up a third of our total commitments this year, totaling $212 million. So that's about a 220% increase over future support last year alone. And when you think about that, it's really not just been one gift. It's been tracking that way the entire year. We've been above 200% most of the year. That 212 million in commitments is around 90% ahead of our 5-year average. And the highest number we've ever had in future support in the history of the university is 135 million. So again, this was an area where we saw a lot of opportunity. But I will just say one thing. I think it's bigger than just the opportunity to grow philanthropic support, and it's really about where are we meeting our donors and being more donor-centric in their approach. So an example of this is in the next week or so, we're actually going to take 50 million of that 212 million, and that'll be shifted to outright support and a life income gift. So the example is that a donor last fall wanted to increase their bequest expectancy, made a bequest of $50 million, and that was what we felt we could do they could do at the time. But after additional conversation with the dean, with the gift planning team, they actually literally only 6 months later decided to convert that into a gift of outright support, and that will have more of an immediate impact to the university. So again, the more we're in this space, the more we're talking to donors about what their interests are at that time, and then continuing to store it and cultivate them to try to drive it towards immediate support. This has just been one area that I know we've highlighted a lot that we've tried to improve the last couple of years. And I have to follow Dr. Long's lead, I have a real-time announcement that I would like to share. As of about an hour ago, we were able to formalize a verbal offer. I can't share the name yet, but a new individual who will be joining our team to run corporate and foundation relations for the university, and this is an area that we also want to bolster as we go forward. We've done extremely well in the foundation space. I think we can do better in the corporate space, but we were able to finalize a verbal offer with this individual here about an hour ago, and will be joining us shortly. As it relates to major gifts, so far this year, we have documented 94 gifts of $1 million or more to the university. That's 18% of this time last year, and it's our highest number so far in the capital campaign. While gifts of 7 figures or more are very important to the overall campaign, we're obviously continuing to focus on growth of undergraduate alumni participation as well. So far this year, we've had 29,500 undergraduate alumni make gifts to the university. And we set a goal this year of trying to hit 19% of undergraduate alumni participation. Last year, we were at 81%. Or excuse me, we're at 81%. We're at 18%. But so far this year, we're at 91% of goal against that 19%. And we're tracking about 10% ahead of where we were last year. So again, if all things continue to go well here in the next month, we feel pretty confident that we will hit that goal of 19%. Overall, we would like to hit 20% undergraduate alumni participation by the end of the campaign. And also try to, this is, the president and I were talking about this the other day, which I think is a staggering figure, try to drive the number of individual donors to this campaign to over 250,000. As of right now, we have just under 240,000 individual donors to this campaign. And when you compare that to about 270,000 living alumni, that's a pretty good number. So obviously donors don't have to be alums, they can be parents, members of the community, et cetera, but we're excited by that. One of the other things that we're doing to drive the undergraduate participation is also to drive the number of events we have. And this year we again have another record that we're up 4% total number of events. Our team in University Advancement has organized about 1,100 events so far this year. So there's a lot of work being done there. And a specific example of that, in partnership with the Alumni Association, we're going to be hosting our second weekend of reunions this weekend. Had a class last weekend and a cohort this weekend. Interestingly enough, we are less than $3 million away from hitting our all-time high for reunion giving. And that number was set a couple years ago at a little over 120 million, and we're on pace to surpass that this year. In a particular reference, I would like to recognize the class of 1974, which all of you know was our first class, a coeducational class here at the university. They set the all-time record this year of $68 million in total philanthropy for their reunion class, which is the highest number a class has ever given as part of their reunions. So we're happy there. Overall, my final data point is we're over $5.2 billion now in the campaign and continuing to plug along. So I think we are in a very good position as we lead into the final year of the On the Future campaign. I do have one more announcement to share, which I think is pretty exciting, and I think you will all be excited to hear this as well. But it's not a data point, it's an award. So some of you may have heard of the Council for Advancement and Support of Education, otherwise known as CASE. CASE is essentially our trade association in our business, and it's an institutional trade association. So it's not individual members such as myself, but institutions such as the University of Virginia and everyone else around the country and around the world looking at how to support education. There's actually 3,600 institutions that are a membership of CASE in over 80 countries around the world. So CASE just recently shared that an award that they are giving out this year to an institutional leader who has done the most to support philanthropy and higher education in the U.S. and Canada. And I'm excited to share that this summer, President Ryan will be honored with the award from CASE to be this year's recipient. I'll just share a couple quick comments from the nomination form, and also from that I learned from CASE when we were notified that Jim was going to be this year's recipient for North America. There was a lot of conversation and points in the nomination about how important the 2030 strategic plan was to helping our donor base understand what the priorities were for the university and driving their inspiration for philanthropy. The second point that was highlighted was how much time he spends not only in large group settings, but also individually meeting with donors and prospective donors around the country. And the third point that was connected directly to the campaign was just how much has been able to be accomplished under his presidency, from the Temple of Sciences to the Karsh Institute to the master plan we just heard about to the Clark Scholars. The list just goes on and on of the things we've been able to accomplish due to the president's deep engagement in our philanthropic efforts. There was also, I would just say, as important, if not more important, was also the work that the president has done outside of philanthropy for our university. Obviously, we're in a challenging time in higher education, and we've had some unique and tragic issues happen here over the last several years. But the president, as you all know, has led with humility, with grace, and with a little bit of humor along the way. I know this is embarrassing to Jim for me to share all this right now, but I also know the president well enough that he would say this is more than just an individual acknowledgement, but it's an institutional acknowledgement as well for his senior management team, for the deans around the grounds, for the staff, and this board particularly, for all you've done to support our efforts. So again, if you could please join me in a round of applause for the president. And that concludes my report.
Good job. Any comments, questions for Mark or others? If not, let me end this session by thanking President Ryan And your team, Mark Llewellyn and your team and all the people at the University of Virginia who've worked so hard for the success that we've had, the $5 billion goal which we've attained, and now the fact that we're at $5.2 billion and we still have a year to go in this campaign. So we look forward to more good news as we move ahead. So with that, this committee is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
We'll let the room clear and then we'll begin immediately with the discussion with the university leadership.